I didn't know what to expect from 3.5's story after watching the livestream. The only thing I knew was that it looked cool, and would probably be great, but that's pretty much it. But to my surprise, not only was the story fantastic, it's possibly the second best introduction to a region we've had, with 2.0's Raguna taking the cake. 3.5 is not only well told, it's dripping with intrigue that keeps you wanting to know more. What's happening to Yang Yang? Where's Sheen, the Sentinel? And are the Fraxidus behind things yet again? Before we start answering these questions, greetings, I'm Sarah Floor. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you'll consider subscribing. And if you're not new, welcome back. Let's talk about patch 3.5. As always, I'll talk about what I liked, what I dislike, and some things I'm still conflicted on. I like the entire setup of this patch's story. Rover and Yang Yang have been exchanging letters for a while now, and if you regularly play, you know that Yang Yang is the one who sends Rover the general gameplay surveys at the end of every patch. In-universe, it's just a normal exchange of letters, and we actually get a brief interactive section on how we want to respond to her. I'll cover the rest of our departure from the highway later, but I will say I like the new voice messages they send us.
So, is this like your graduation trip? Oh, wait, I guess this can't count since you've been traveling this whole time anyway. Huanglong, huh? If I ever get...
The mystery kicks in when we witness Yang Yang and Qixia surrounded by TDs. Yang Yang heads to Xuanfang City, a mysterious fortress city on the border of Jinzhou and Mengzhou, and allows Qixia to escape with her life in the balance. We further this mystery when Rover arrives in Jinzhou and notices the atmosphere is off. We learn that Yang Yang, as well as several civilians in Jinzhou, have gone missing at Xuanfang. The way Kuro builds up this mystery is excellent, and it immediately sets the tension and gives us a strong sense of urgency. It isn't just anybody that's gone missing, it's Yang Yang, the cover girl of the game and someone dear to the Ruler. It was really great seeing most of the 1.x cast again too. There were some noteworthy absences, but the characters who didn't show up during the 3.1 Mansion event show up here in 3.5. Players who join Wuthering Waves after patch 1.2 also finally get to meet Shang Liao for the first time. Ever since his introduction, Rover would mention him in Pascar's story to characters like Cardathea, and in 3.2 Segway, he's mentioned again. So it's great for newer players to finally meet the man himself. Also, the English voice acting of the 1.x characters have improved drastically. It's a night and day difference, especially characters like Qixia, Baija, and Yang Yang, whom players have criticized in the past for being the weakest among the VO work. Now, if only they could re-record their battle dialogue. Anyway, after hearing of Yang Yang's disappearance, we check in on Jinshi to inquire about Xuanfang Hold. It is there we meet Yang Yang's older sister, Soi Soi, giving Sanhua a hard time. I'll talk about her later, but after going back and forth, Jinshi finally arrives, injured. We learn more information on Xuanfang, how Xin, the Sentinel in Mengzhou, and Jue, Sentinel of Jinzhou, had an agreement regarding the fortress city, and should something happen, a spare key would be left behind to force open the city gates. Jinshi hands the key to Rover, and we check on Qixia's condition before setting out with Sui Sui. This section with Shang Liao and Baija, and the scene with Jinshi, continues to drip feed us more details and informations on Xuanfang Hold, setting our expectations higher. Learning that Xin was the creator of the Hold, and that she designed it for the sole purpose of trapping tacit discords in, makes us wonder if that system could be used to prevent people from escaping too. After arriving in Xuanfang Hold, we are quickly separated from Soi Soi via a thick fog, and meet Liang Yu, a pretty important NPC that we see a lot of. I've heard people really disliked how she had so much screen time, but personally, I love it. If we can learn something about the world, the lore, or its people through an NPC, then they aren't a waste of time. And we learned quite a bit from her, about how the auto puppets, creations of the Sentinel that have protected Xuanfang for ages, caught everyone off guard and began to slaughter people indiscriminately. And we get to see how she interacts with other NPCs around her when we control Yang Yang. It makes the world feel alive and lived in. Speaking of the world, I have mixed opinions on Xuanfang as a region, which I will touch on later. But as a vehicle to tell the story, it does its job. Anyway, I mentioned we control Yang Yang, so let's talk about her side of the story. The story is divided among three main characters, Rover, Soy Soy, and Yang Yang, and a new POV switching feature they've added to the game. Yang Yang's story gets us into the meat of the situation and shows us how the people of Xuanfang have dealt with the situation. The auto puppets have rebelled and have been traveling around killing people, and through Yang Yang, we work with the Xuan Watchers and Liang Yu to safeguard the civilians and learn more about the situation. This is where the pacing slows down. I definitely understand why people have problems with this. You're going around talking to NPCs and not much is happening. However, Wuthering Waves' writers make sure that their dialogue is brisk, and the NPCs don't overstay their welcome. They don't speak with verbose, patronizing language that talks down to you, and because of that, the writing feels immersive in a way that echoes the Trail series dialogue. We also get to see Yang Yang's forte freak out and cause her to resonate with the past. Many people have called this nonsensical and an ass pull, but we've had reports of Yang Yang's forte that discuss this variability, to use the streams to experience past events. What's strange is how strongly her forte is reacting, to the point where she's so immersed in the past, she's practically there, watching as the carnage from the Fortress and Gorges War unfolds. I assume this has to do with the strong negative emotions of the people during that time, resonating with her and creating these lifelike glimpses into the past. Something that our antagonist quickly becomes aware of. I'll talk about Muyu later, but overall Yang Yang's side of the story is full of lore and intrigue. We get to see Yang Yang's capabilities firsthand, and a level of characterization we hadn't gotten due to 1.0's rewrites. Let's talk about Soy Soy's side of the story now. After being separated from Rover by the fog, she wanders into an abandoned village before being surrounded by the auto puppets. She's saved by Jingran, who happened to have a talisman that can help her navigate the fog's hallucinations. This exchange between them was nice. I find it funny that Rover didn't meet Jingran at all in this story. Hopefully he has a bigger role when it's his time to become playable. Jingran points Soy Soy to where she could find Shin's chamber, and this is where the bulk of Soy Soy's side of the story takes place. I like Shin's introduction a lot. Of course, this isn't a proper introduction, just her shadow created from a piece of her frequency, but even from this we get a great idea on her personality and clues on why she hasn't acted. She's haughty and vindictive, and puts Soy Soy through several trials just to punish her a little from breaking their agreement. She's quite unusual from the other Sentinels we have encountered, but that makes her stand out in a good way. But at the end of it all, she does care for humanity, as we see at the end of the story chapter. Soy Soy went to Shin to retrieve the Prism of Fate, a MacGuffin that could be used to locate Shin's whereabouts and possibly free her from her predicament. Initially, Soy Soy intended to retrieve it and return it to Shin to restore her powers, but with the situation as it is, Soy Soy decides to send it off to Rover instead, giving them the power they need to repel the Auto Puppet Rebellion. Which brings us to Rover's POV, who is tracking down Yang Yang's frequency after she had disappeared from her encounter with Muyu. Abby gets some screen time here, eating the frequencies of the auto puppets and discovering that they're full of negative emotions like regret, rage, and disappointment. This gives us an important clue to how Muyu was able to hijack the auto puppets. Later, after reuniting with Yang Yang, we get our hands on the Prism of Fate, delivered to us by Soy Soy's bird. Sheen communicates with Rover through it and tells us to never forsake this city. This is what I mean by Sheen being a sentinel who cares for humanity, despite how she treated Soy Soy earlier. After the battle, Yang Yang and Rover share a tender moment, which was the source of a lot of controversy. Look, at this point, players should be used to moments like this between Rover and the female cast, and it should be doubly expected with Yang Yang. She's the face of the game icon. Of course she's going to be closer to Rover than the others. Now, I understand the point that it doesn't feel earned, because we as players don't see the relationship unfold before our eyes to make this moment feel earned. That I agree with. But at the same time, I don't hate this scene. I'm more like Liangyu, just sitting there awkwardly until they're done. Let's jump to the climax of the story, yeah? After reconvening with everyone, Muyu launches a full-scale assault on Xuanfang with his auto-puppet army. This scene was insanely cool and epic. I love how Qing Xiao leaps down with her swords and how Rover handles the swaths of enemies on their own. Now this is where all the hype moments and aura ended up. The final battle against Muyu takes a turn as Yang Yang's forte acts up again, and she sees the frequencies of the dead Muyu used to hijack the auto-puppets. He reveals the full scope of his forte, to manipulate and stitch the frequencies of the dead. Yang Yang refuses to destroy their frequencies, and through their power, she transforms and gains the power as Yang Yang Xuanling. This is another contentious scene, but I'll try to explain it the way I see it. We learned earlier in the story that the Xuanling bird carries a cultural significance in Xuanfang until its extinction. People entrusted the Xuanling with their joys, sorrows, and longings to them, so that they could carry those feelings across the wilds. This could be what's happening here. The frequencies of the dead entrusting their own feelings to Yang Yang, causing her forte to mutate. Regardless, we may not get clarity until much later. Perhaps when we meet Sheen, or maybe as far out as the New Federation, which was name-dropped yet again. Finally, I want to talk about the ghost Yang Yang we've seen in the story, this alternate version of her. It seems like from her warnings and her mannerisms that she's a Yang Yang from an alternate timeline, warning her current timeline self not to get involved. She then later appears after Yang Yang's transformation and shows her a vision of the past, about how Rover's arrival changed this timeline and broke Solaris 3's cause and effect, and that Yang Yang's encounter with Rover was a miracle. I have a theory that Instance 1, better known as the Goddess, may have been the one to break the chains of events on Solaris 3 by casting Rover into Jinzhou. The lore nuts already know who she is, but for those who don't know, she is one of the 3 administrators of the Tethys system, the other 2 being Shorekeeper and Rover. We also see her in Imperator's Civilization capsule from patch 2.7, while Shorekeeper was given authority over space on Solaris 3. Instance 1, her sister, was given authority over time. Some believe that Rover never appeared on Solaris 3, and that's what's caused the events of the Yang Yang Xuanling trailers, but I disagree. Remember, Rover was the one who founded Jinzhou, so it wouldn't exist without them. I believe that Rover just never returned to Jinzhou, and their paths never crossed, which makes you wonder what Rover was doing in the Ghost Yang Yang's timeline. Maybe that's an answer we'll get in the future. Overall, this is an exciting mystery that I'm eager to see unravel. Now, I've done a lot of talking about the story. I had a lot to say and I like about it, but there are some things I disliked. I disliked the whole farewell sequence in Lahai Roi. I'm going to be honest, it should have been in 3.4. Like, picture this scenario. After meeting with the board members, we get a letter from Yang Yang, write and send it her way. Then we get our farewell sequence and return to the Black Shores with Alto. Then, 3.5 starts with Yang Yang and Chixia investigating the missing civilians. In my opinion, this would have helped out a lot with the flow of the beginning, and we could have still had the voice message in 3.5. Also, unfortunately, the pre-recorded cutscenes are back, and they're still synced to the CN voice acting. Ugh. I also have to say, Rover's section in the Xuanfang branching storylines was kinda mid. It felt too short for what we got, and the only important thing that happened was getting the MacGuffin from Soy Soy. It doesn't help that Electro Rover sucks. Why did they do the same thing with Arrow Rover but worse? Because they don't even have an Echo set yet. Sure, in the cutscenes it's all hype and aura, and they're fun to play, but they have no teams due to being cursed as a resonant skill damage dealer, and their buffs are tied to negative statuses. What a waste. Also, I really dislike Xuanfang's region design. The high elevations and tighter roads makes the motorbike cumbersome to use. I get why they want the gimmick to stay the same for the patch cycle and not retire the bike because of all the skins attached to it, but this region does not feel built for this shit. Flight would have been a much better fit. Another thing I dislike, and is purely aesthetic, is how the world map looks now. I really hate this massive connecting void between Jinzhou and Xuanfang, and for what I've seen, you can't fill in that part of the map yet. Maybe something will be there and I'm bugging over nothing. Some of the things I'm iffy on include Muyu, our antagonist. At first, I thought he was cool, a villain that isn't Fraxidus or a one-and-done sandworm. But taking a step back, I think he may have been a little too boring. But if he has one thing going for him, it's conviction. He hasn't given up on his plans of overthrowing the Sentinel, so I hope he's a bit more interesting next time around. I want to see him confront Sheen. That would be a defining moment for sure. And finally, I'm a bit iffy on how Yang Yang got her transformation. Like, I get the symbolism and I did my best to explain it, but until we get the science behind it, it'll always have this air of confusion around it, which is why I hope it's cleared up sooner rather than later. All in all, patch 3.5 was an excellent introduction to the new region. It wasn't as great as Rinascita, but even so, it was otherwise a great start. Kuro has done these delicate balancing acts of introducing a new region and its characters multiple times, and each time they've done something different, and most of the time they stick the landing. For Xuanfang and Mengzhou, I believe they stuck the landing and did a great job with it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later.